Dax, they let us back in the room. Episode 2. Lots to unpack here. Obviously with the Club World Cup, U.S. men's national team, Major League Soccer. But Dax, the fact that they let us back for It's Called Soccer, Episode 2, Summer Takeover from your two knuckleheads. I can't believe we're actually doing this for a second time.
Need to question some of the decision makers here.
I agree. But before we get into all the football and soccer around, especially the United States and everything else going around it, Sunday was Father's Day. And I figured we could start this podcast with a real simple, Dax McCarty, your dad gave you the best advice. What was it?
Dart McCarty, absolute legend. When I was growing up, I played a bunch of different sports. And when I really wanted to start focusing on soccer, my dad had a sit down with me, heart to heart, and he said, listen, bud, genetics are genetics, genes are genes. Look, you're never going to be 6'5", you know, you're never going to be this big, strong, fast player. You're going to have to be tougher than everyone else. So let's go practice. You're going to get knocked off the ball a lot. You're skinny. You're a little bit weak. And I was like, Dad, relax. Took me out to the backyard. We were doing a drill where I had to shield him. And he was knocking me around, knocking me off the ball. I said, that's a foul. And he said, no, it's not a foul. Keep going. So I got angry, and I got my arms up. He was like, get your arms up. Elbowed him in the face, drew some blood. It's like, Dad, good. Sorry. He goes, it's not a foul. Keep playing. Keep going. And that was such a light bulb moment for me in my relationship with my dad.
How old were you when you were doing this? Do you remember?
Probably about 11 or 12.
Awesome.
And that was a moment where I thought, okay, I'm going to have to constantly play with a chip on my shoulder. He's trying to teach me to play with that chip on my shoulder because I'll never be the biggest, strongest, fastest. And that was a lesson that I took with me for the rest of my career. Taylor, you played against me. You knew that was how I always approached the game.
Yep.
Dart McCarty, man, what a guy. What about you? You have any good memories?
Two real quick ones. One, my dad said, don't think stupid, which for anyone that knows me well enough, that could be very fitting for my entire life. The other one, which was great, is when I made the decision to give up baseball and turn pro in soccer. Dax, my dad gave me the best advice ever that I still live to this day. Happiness is not measured by what's in your wallet, what car you drive, what house you live in. It's measured by how many times you smile a day. And at the time at 18, 19, when you turn pro and you think you got the world by you know what, and you're like, Dad, what are you even talking about? Now, you're a father, I'm a father, having experienced a full life already at the age of 45. I think about that advice. Dax, he's spot on. If we don't live the moment and if we don't enjoy the day, then what the hell are we doing this for?
That is profound. It's almost like our dads have been there, done that.
Dad, Dart, thank you for helping these two gentlemen get to the, I would say, the finish line, and so to speak, of our careers, but more so just starting our career of being a father. Please remember to subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. Here's what we got coming up.
Taylor, I haven't disagreed with you often, but I'm going to slightly disagree with you right now.
Even the Red Sox fans are now paying attention to what Liverpool does, and I'm telling you, Liverpool fans, you need to pay attention to what the Red Sox do. You were at Manchester United with Cristiano Ronaldo as an assistant coach.
We played Atletico Madrid in Champions League, and I'd say, Ralph, I think it's good if you bring him in the office.
I also think it's a great sign to FIFA that maybe 32 teams in the next reiteration of this is too many.
Landon Donovan's better than Lionel Messi. You heard it here from TT, people.
All right, let's get right into it. The Club World Cup kicked off over the weekend. There were some interesting results. There were also just some interesting, I would say, storylines around the teams. But Dax, you and I were very interested in what this would look like. I thought PSG versus Atletico Madrid, the Rose Bowl, over 80,000 was really good. I was there for the opener with Inter Miami and Al Ahly. Everyone was talking about ticket prices. You and I were having that conversation. Buddy, over 60,000 in the building. There was a real vibe. But then there's also the conversation, right? Chelsea, LAFC in Atlanta on a Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Felt like a tennis match, but for you, for me, for anyone that lives in the United States, that's not a surprise. It's Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. People have jobs. It's going to be difficult throughout the group stage to navigate that. However, Dax, the biggest storyline for me was not that Bayern Munich beat Auckland City 10-0. It's the fact that Auckland goalkeeper Conor Tracey had to apply for unpaid vacation from his full-time job at the veterinary pharmaceutical warehouse to play in the tournament. Now, you and I come from the old Major League Soccer days, even the old CONCACAF World Cup qualifying days, where sometimes you would play against teams and players that had other jobs. Dax, your initial thoughts?
This story is incredible about the Auckland City goalkeeper. Taylor, we played in a time in MLS when you had developmental contracts. I had teammates making $12,900, not a month, not a week, a year. And I knew multiple guys that had to get second jobs. One of them was my roommate, one of my good buddies, Andrew Daniels. He was on a developmental roster spot. He was from Brown, so he had a much bigger brain than you or I. And he just said, look, I'm done with training at 11:30, 12 p.m. I'm getting another job. I want to make more money. So he got a job in finance where they allowed him to go from 12 to 5:30. So I would have a roommate who we would carpool together. We would go to training together. We'd have great banter. And then we'd go home after lunch. He would put on his suit and tie and he'd go to work and he'd have his briefcase and I'd see him off. So it was like I had a brother in the morning and then it was like my uncle coming home after a hard day's work in the afternoon. And we lived together. And I just thought to myself, wow, how far we've come in the last 20 years in MLS. But for Auckland City, it's not, the story's not the result. It's just the players. And I feel like the opportunity that they have in this tournament.
That's what it is, but it's an opportunity. It's also a real, I would say, statement to our sport. It's the most inclusive sport in the world, and there's multiple different ways you can skin a cat, and there's multiple different ways you can turn into Jamie Vardy, who didn't have a great career until late in his career. You don't know. And so if you are Conor Tracey, Dax, and someone says you get the opportunity to go play in goal against Bayern Munich, what happens if Conor Tracey, and he doesn't know, what if he stands on his head, he makes 10 to 11 saves, they only lose 4 or 5-0, but all of a sudden eyeballs are on the game and they're saying, oh, who's this goalkeeper? With all due respect to his veterinary pharmaceutical warehouse job, I think he's going to give it up to be a full-time professional footballer. But I need to hear your thought. Inter Miami, Seattle Sounders, LAFC. I was impressed with MLS. And listen, this isn't a loser take. For anyone that's listened to me for 20 plus years, you play to win the game. And if you lose the game, you don't get a trophy in my world. That's fine. However, I did Seattle Sounders on Sunday Night Soccer 3 weeks ago. Brian Schmetzer had no idea if he was going to have two center backs healthy and fit. He doesn't have Jordan Morris. He doesn't have his full complement of players. You have to have your full complement of players in MLS in order to succeed in this. But they gave Botafogo something to think about in the second half. Good on them.
They did. Yeah,
LAFC were kind of lifeless. Bawanga wasn't great, but they frustrated Chelsea to a point that Chelsea, yes, they scored 2 goals, but they still got life in the tournament. And quite frankly, Inter Miami was the better team in the second half. Were you impressed with the 3 MLS teams in the Club World Cup opening games?
I was, Taylor. And you hit a lot of good points because to me, whenever you want to talk about results, we took 1 point out of 3 games. In a vacuum, not great. But if we want to talk about moral victories, and I think for MLS as a whole, this is probably a broader point to expectations. I think the expectations were probably like, okay, walk in the park for Chelsea against LAFC. But for Miami and Seattle, they have to win their first game. They didn't. But it's also the performance. The performance was really impressive from Seattle, especially in the second half, where you don't have your full complement of players and you have Botafogo essentially on their heels. Seattle Sounders should have gotten something out of that game. They should have gotten a point. And on a different day, if they had I think if they had a designated player, true striker, TT, I think they win that game. So that's maybe a conversation for a different day. But unfortunately for Seattle, you didn't get the 3 points. You've got Atletico Madrid, PSG next. This is all for just pride at this point. But they showed a lot of pride against Botafogo. So that should be something that they take a lot of pride in. LAFC, again, I talked about it, goal difference. I think if they get out of that game 1-0 and maybe can try to be a little more dangerous, which they were, they maybe sneak a point, that's fine. 2-0, it's about goal difference now because I think they have a real opportunity, especially against Tunis. And then, Flamengo looks good, and the support they had the other night was incredible. Truly, that was such a great atmosphere. But LAFC still has the best chance to advance. I think Inter Miami is going to be disappointed that they didn't get 3 points. I think they can be proud of Oscar Ustari, who we've been really critical of, and
he's been
deservedly
terrible
so.
in MLS, Dax.
He's been awful in MLS,
terrible.
and he was the best player on the field for Inter Miami. Saved a penalty kick, made 9 or 10 saves. So there are a lot of positives the MLS teams can take out of it. I would still say the expectation is that Inter Miami potentially can get out of the group. LAFC can potentially get out of the group. And if they marry those performances with better results, then I'm buzzing for MLS.
If the Major League Soccer owners look at this and it wets their lips and they evolve schedule, salary cap, and everything, then Dax, the FIFA Club World Cup, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, we'll talk about its impact on Major League Soccer and what it's done. That's what I want out of it.
Yep.
Of course you want Major League Soccer teams to perform well and to speak highly of the league. You want that from Liga MX as well, because of now the Leagues Cup and the partnership, you want North America to thrive. But if Major League Soccer wants to be a top 10 league in the world, they've got to see this tournament. They've got to see the other teams around the world. And it's not just Real Madrid, Manchester City, and PSG. It's the other teams around the world and say, hang on a minute. We want to be the best teams of that contingent.
Absolutely.
If that happens, Dax, we're cooking with gas, and Major League Soccer will be a top 10 league in the world. Dax, we had Major League Soccer fixtures over the past weekend, starting Thursday night with Ronnie Dyla and his return to New York City, and that was a complete... That was a dud, dude. But I don't even want to touch on Atlanta United because, as our good friend and colleague Sasha Klushton called them a bunch of potatoes, he's not really wrong. I actually want to talk about Phil Neville and the Timbers because this is interesting. Listen, they're up against 10 men at San Jose this weekend. They give up a tying goal, awful goalkeeping. Pantemis knows it. Phil Neville was actually suspended for the game, so Dave Vandenberg was the manager for the day, and he rightfully said, Pantemis, we can count on. It was a mistake. It's actually the news. Jonathan Rodriguez will miss the rest of the season with a knee injury, so now that means the Portland Timbers will get roster relief, but more so the roster spot. That is a new designated player. I think if they do this right and find the right player, I think it gives them a real opportunity to catch Vancouver to win the West. Now, a lot of people say, hang on a minute, just listen to me. Anthony's having a career year.
Yep.
They're better defensively than they were last year when they gave up 55-plus goals, got into the playoffs, and they got absolutely housed by Vancouver in the playing game. I think Phil Neville and the Timbers, they need to go for it here. I think Jonathan Rodriguez, the knee injury is going to be a serious one. I don't even know if he's going to be ready next year. Dax, do you, one, agree with me that they could be contenders in the West? But two, I'm actually more interested to hear from you. If they get a DP spot and Phil Neville gets to pick anything, if you were Phil Neville, what position would you go for?
Taylor, I haven't disagreed with you often, but I'm going to slightly disagree with you right now that they are contenders in the West, just merely because of what I saw against San Jose. And you touched on it a little bit. The Portland Timbers were at home against a good San Jose Earthquakes team, but not a great team. And they were the recipients of an opposing player getting a red card fairly early in that game. And San Jose was comfortable. San Jose dominated the expected goal battle. They were more dangerous in transition. And Portland really struggled in the second half. So this is twofold. I think Phil Neville has done a good job, and I think he can do a better job because he needs to figure out what his strongest team is. Okay? He's been rotating strikers, which, I don't know, you were a striker. How would you feel if you rotated every single game with the other striker who's a good player? Kevin Kelsey is a good player. Felipe Mora is a good player. One of them wants to feel like, hey, I have the real backing of the manager, so I can continue to get a good rhythm. I don't want to start, score a goal, and then come off and be on the bench the next game. So Phil Neville has to sort that out because I think both of them are dangerous. I think he can tweak things more tactically. I think he can put them on the field together at the same time to be more dangerous. Okay. And you put David DaCosta either out wide or drop him a little bit deeper. I think that the building blocks are there for the Portland Timbers to potentially be a contender in the West right now, but I see Vancouver as a better team when they're full strength. I see San Diego as a better team when they're full strength. Portland is more in that tier below those teams. I think that they're close. If I'm if I'm Phil Neville and
what
I
position are you signing?
Yeah, if I look at my roster and I think about a position that I want to add, I think I want to add in central midfield. I think David Ayala is absolutely fantastic, and he is taking the next step. I think Diego Chara still can play a role, but he is getting older. I think if you add a difference maker in central midfield and more of maybe a box-to-box number 8 that can help that attack, but also balance things out on the back line as well, because Finn Sermon's been good, but I still have concerns a little bit about them defensively. I think that's where I would add. I know Jonathan Rodriguez is out, but that front, those 3 attacking players, Santi Moreno, David Da Costa, and Anthony, they're excellent. They are in the upper tier of creative players in MLS, in my opinion. You have 2 really good strikers. So maybe if you go and add a DP, I don't know who you bring off the field. I hope you will tell me if I'm an idiot. And if that's the wrong place to add.
No, you're not. And here's the thing. I think the irony is, and this is where people fully don't understand David Da Costa and the kind of player he is. He's actually your 8. I love the fact that you just said that.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout.
I love the fact that you just said it because they actually have that guy. So tactically, if Da Costa becomes your 8, then this is where the evolution of Major League Soccer has to change. I'd argue for the Portland Timbers, it should be a bona fide center back.
Okay.
Spend a DP spot on a bona fide center back because Kelsey and Mora, sure, I can give them a run for their money. I can move them, interchange them. Anthony's great. Moreno's good and dynamic. That team becomes a bona fide contender if you put someone next to Sermon, because Kamal Miller really isn't that guy in a back 4. If you want to play 3, he's absolutely perfect for that, as we saw with Inter Miami winning Leagues Cup when he was playing left center back in a 3. But you're 100% correct. They've got to play Da Costa as the 8.
I love that shout.
Not as the 10, because he's not Evander.
Taylor, I see the vision. David Da Costa, move him back a little bit. You don't have to play Diego Chara big minutes. David Da Costa is really comfortable in possession. He's really excellent dribbler out of the back, breaking lines. I see the vision. You move him back a little bit. It's really aggressive, but I think Phil Neville plays aggressively. I think he wants to be aggressive. I think he wants to put teams on their heels. And with Finn Sermon and a stud center back next to him, I think you take your team to another level. And if that happens, I absolutely see them contending in the West.
I love the fact that you use the word aggressive, because that's how I would describe Bradley Carnell and the Philadelphia Union. The fact that they're top of the East after a 98-minute winner against Charlotte FC at the weekend. I get what San Diego's doing, and I'd argue Mikey Varas is going to be my manager of the year up to this point. But I'm telling you right now, Bradley Carnell's really making me think about this. How much credit does Bradley Carnell deserve for what Philadelphia Union have done?
He deserves an insane amount of credit for what the Union have done, and probably an apology for a lot of analysts like myself who basically had Philly not making the playoffs. And if you looked at this from an outside perspective, you thought Jim Curtin, one of the best coaches in MLS, one of the most successful coaches in MLS. Yeah, okay, Philly had a down year last year. Totally. But you thought Jim Curtin had earned that equity to get them through that. Hey, Ernst Tanner, full credit to you. You made a really tough decision. You brought in Bradley Carnell, who I thought was fired too early from St. Louis. And now he is proving his worth, because the system that he plays in, this isn't some sort of new novel concept. This has been around for a while now, since I was playing the energy drink high press style. And Taylor, what it does for your team is it raises the floor of every single player, because you don't have to overthink things. It's plug and play. Philadelphia Union are missing players from injury. They're missing players from international duty. Guess what? I can bring in a depth piece who might not be able to have the same ceiling as a Ty Baribo or as a Danley Jean-Jacques when you don't have him. But what they can do is continue tactically to continue to play out the principles that Bradley Carnell has instilled. The team is more narrow. The fullbacks are excellent. They flood the box with numbers. So even if you don't have a Ty Baribo, you're still going to be dangerous.
Bradley Carnell, well done, but you still are up against it. Columbus, Cincinnati, Miami, and other teams on your tail for the rest of the regular season.
All right, Taylor, switching directions a little bit. Pretty big news, I would say, in the European world in terms of a transfer. Florian Wirtz, one of the most sought-after German talents on the market this summer, going to Liverpool. I'm just curious about your reaction to the news. You have experience playing over in Germany with 1860 Munich. You were there 3 years. What do you make of this for Liverpool, who are coming off, obviously, winning the EPL title, but with some significant, transfer news of their own? Just curious, what do you make of the news? What do you see Wirtz as a player doing over in a league like the English Premier League?
Dax, it's interesting, right? I've been in Boston for 24, 25 years, so Fenway Sports Group is in my backyard. The first thing I thought of was, whoa, this is a club record. And we're talking a club that has had a ton of success, but not the level of spending that maybe we've seen with Manchester City, Chelsea, even to a certain level, Manchester United. And then 72 hours later, the Boston Red Sox trade their $285 million left on a deal, Rafael Devers, to the San Francisco Giants. So I was like, wait a minute, this is what Liverpool fans, and quite honestly, for the UK listeners, because I know we've got some on here, even the Red Sox fans are now paying attention to what Liverpool does, and I'm telling you, Liverpool fans, you need to pay attention to what the Red Sox do, because they're in lockstep.
Yep.
So it was very intriguing to me that they go out and spend that money on Florian Wirtz. I think he works fantastic for Liverpool. I think he's got a real versatility to how he plays. I think it says a lot about Florian Wirtz that the other suitors that he had, he made it abundantly clear, nope, I want to go to Liverpool. I think the way Xabi Alonso educated him, gave him the next step to his career at Bayer Leverkusen, I think it fits to the Premier League into what Liverpool is going to do. I think it's a home run signing, but I just am so intrigued by Fenway Sports Group, Dax, because Liverpool and the Boston Red Sox, you could argue, are two of the most iconic brands within their respective leagues and sports within their countries. And yet one can't do something without the other helping, which tells you a lot about Fenway Sports Group. I think Liverpool are not done, and I think their team's going to look a lot different, which says a lot. The fact that Van Dijk is still there, Mohamed Salah still stays there. If I'm not mistaken, they signed 2-year extensions in the offseason. But Florian Wirtz will be a home run signing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with Liverpool in the first 6 to 8 months. All right, we're back with the picks of the week. Dax, you took a healthy lead with a respectful 4 points. Dear Lord, did you really? What did you do? Who'd you pick again? I wasn't listening.
It's the analyst game, Taylor. You just gotta know. You just gotta know. All right, you just gotta know. You'll learn from me after we do a couple episodes. Okay.
By the way, did you pick Vitinha to score a goal?
I sure did.
Yeah, they were really good, and Atletico was really bad.
Yeah,
really bad.
PSG is
just so for the U.S. men's national team followers, listeners, and all that, I am upset that Haji Wright scored the 5th goal because I predicted a 4-0 scoreline, and I was on the airplane doing 3 cities in 28 hours. Dax, I had the U.S. Open on my computer. I had the U.S. men's national team in Trinidad on my phone, and when it was 4-0, I typed and pasted a text to you. And Haji Wright scores. And if anyone was watching me on the airplane, Dax, I would have thrown that phone through the window if I could, because I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I sent Haji a DM, actually. I said, it's 4-0.
Of course you did.
He got the message, and so I'm happy that I take a healthy lead, because we got some tough games to predict coming up.
All right, go ahead. What's the first game?
U.S. men's national team, Saudi Arabia. I'm going to go first. I loved the U.S. men's national team performance and bounce back against Trinidad and Tobago and San Jose. I think Trinidad was not good, but I think the story of the game is that the U.S., they just needed a result. They bounced back. They got some confidence. Their attacking players looked better. They got a clean sheet, so vibes are good. Saudi Arabia is a good team. Saudi Arabia has shown me, in especially the last couple of years, some of the results that they've been able to get. I think this is going to be a really tough test for the U.S. men's national team, a way tougher test than Trinidad was. But I still think that Pochettino is going to get the best out of this group in this game. I see the U.S. men's national team winning 2-1.
Wow, good for you. I got 1-1. I I feel like the game's in Austin, Texas. It's going to be extremely hot. Yes, the game's at 8:15 local time at nighttime, so it will be a little bit easier than what we saw with PSG and Atletico at the Rose Bowl and how hot that was. I'm not completely convinced with this group of players with the U.S. men's national team, so I got 1-1. My favorite game of the group stage of the Club World Cup, I circled it immediately when it came out. Bayern Munich, Boca Juniors, in Miami, 9 o'clock at night, Hard Rock, Friday night, the 20th of June. I think it's going to be rocking and rolling.
Agreed.
Boca travels extremely well. They were up 2-0 against Benfica and let that slide. They ended up finishing the opening group stage game, at 2-2. I think Bayern Munich's going to be flying. I see 4-2 final score of Bayern Munich over Boca. I just don't think Boca can be defensively sound for that long against Bayern Munich.
Agreed on the result. Bayern Munich is going to win this game, but Boca Juniors, I love this matchup because it's two massive global brands.
Agreed, and it's Friday night in Miami.
And they don't ever really get to meet each other in any sense of a competitive game other than what will be happening on Friday. I think that Harry Kane, if you don't score in a 10-goal blowout, then you are bound to score the next game. I see Harry Kane scoring a brace, and I think Bayern Munich wins 3-1.
Ooh, good one. Seattle Sounders, PSG, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock local time in Seattle. PSG looked really good against Atletico Madrid. Seattle gave Botafogo something to think about in the second half. I've got PSG 4-0 over Seattle.
Yeah, I think Seattle can take a lot of pride in their performance against Botafogo. I thought they were brilliant, honestly. They really were playing with no fear. But Botafogo, PSG, there are massive differences and levels to this competition and this team. I think PSG probably rotates a little bit, TT. I think that they probably try to get some fresh legs on the field. And when they rotate, it's not the same as, say, when the Seattle Sounders rotate because of the depth. PSG wins this game 3-0. I think the Sounders keep it close-ish. But no chance. I don't know if I have Vitinha to score again. I'm going Doué. Game winner.
Ooh, I'm going to take Harry Kane against Boca Juniors.
I already said he was going to have a brace. But I want to know.
Oh, you did?
I did. But I want to know your tiebreaker, who scores for the U.S. men's national team.
That's a good tiebreaker, actually. I will take Malik Tillman.
Good one. I'm taking Ajiman. I think Ajiman is going to be a handful for those defenders. I think he at least gets 1 goal.
Pacers or Thunder, NBA Finals?
Thunder. I love SGA.
And so he would naturally be your MVP?
Yes. SGA is the most fun player to watch in the NBA right now. Give me the Thunder.
I think the Thunder
are the
in
most 6, baby.
I know. I think the Thunder are really exciting, and I would be stunned against it just for shits and giggles. I will take Halliburton and the Pacers because whatever they have stuck up, you know what? In the end of games, they could be down 7 with about 75 seconds to go, and somehow they're winning games that they should. It's Thunder's series to lose, but just for this whole podcast, I'm taking the Pacers. We're now joined by the Colorado Rapids manager and former U.S. men's national team captain, Chris Armas. Chris, welcome to the show. But just before we get started, just people are really curious, who's taller, you or Dax?
Oh gosh,
I think I pipped that one with the hair spiked up. Chris, what do you think?
The hair sways it. The hair is definitely going to sway it. We both can actually jump pretty high.
That's
he's
right.
Probably better in the air, but I think he's got me by an inch or so.
He's got you by an inch for sure. For those of you that are new to who Chris Armas is, this is one of the best players I ever played with the U.S. men's national team, but more so one of the more competitive guys I ever competed against in Major League Soccer. Chris, I want you to start with your player's hat on and not the Colorado Rapids manager hat on. We've talked a lot about the U.S. men's national team and the disappointment you and I have, off record, on record, whatever it may be. But there's been a lot of drama around this team from the 22 World Cup and the Reyna and Berhalter and all of that to now all of the sudden it's Pochettino against Pulisic. Just starting from there, What is your take of the U.S. men's national team program right now? And why is it always about what's off the field and not on the field?
Well, listen, I'm a benefit of doubt guy. When I don't have all the information, it's hard to speak definitively of what's going on. However, I love our national team. I'm not one of the haters out there, and I think there's a lot of them these days. And it's easy to poke from the outside, but that's kind of how it goes when you're at the highest level now. You put yourself in that arena. Yeah, you're subject to the critics. Here's what I'd say. I think we made a decision to bring in a manager, high profile, big experiences. Maybe this could take our program maybe where it hasn't gone before. But in that, we would have to think it's now going to require some time. Now, we might think, well, we know the best players, we know that, but he needs time to figure out. And now you see some of the games, the lineups is young players, and then the results don't look the way we wanted to all year out. So, one, I think I'd say we got to give him some time. Two, it looks a little bit all over the place in moments. What's our style of play? There's lots of things we could talk about, but I do think it looks like a guy that's trying to figure out his player pool, which is the best players. And if we're just looking at that, we could almost talk about the lineup a year from now. We can plug in players now, but I think he's trying to get to know what he's got to work with. And I expect it to just keep getting better and better towards us hosting the World Cup.
Yeah, Chris, I agree with you. I think he's still trying to figure out what his best team is. I don't think you're going to get an argument from many people, at least many sane people, that Christian Pulisic is 100% a part of his strongest team. Yeah. He is the U.S. men's national team's best player right now. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know if you have a different opinion on that. But right now, with the drama going on between him and Pochettino, put yourself in Pochettino's shoes and just can you just walk me through maybe how you as a coach would handle the situation happening right now? What's going on? Because to me, it seems like the communication between manager and player can be a little bit better and can be handled a little bit better. So we're not talking about the off-field stuff happening and we can just focus on the on-field stuff.
If you have Lionel Messi, he's on your team, just forget Pulisic for a second. If you're the new manager and say, hey, to Messi, listen, here's where we're going. You'd almost, for me, think you got to get him on board and say, what is the best thing for our team? What's the best thing for you? I don't know if those conversations have been had, but you would think that such an important player, for me, the best player. You can talk about Tyler Adams, so important piece, but Pulisic, every time I've seen Christian on the field, like he plays to win, he puts his body on the line, plays with intensity, loves it, the passion. So he's the most important guy, let's say. So now when recently Pochettino comes out and says, hey, no, we're not going to have different rules. Here's what it was. I understand new manager coming in. Like, no,
100%.
It's not what you want. When you put on that badge, is it your first time? Is it your last time? But it's not up to the player, right? For me, however, it's Pulisic. So now is there every manager, you got to lead your household, you lead your team how you see fit. He's probably saying, no, this is the culture I'm setting. It's not up to the player. And it sounds like there was a little bit of maybe, look, this is what it can be. If you want to be part of it, this is what it is.
This is what I love about you, though, Chris. This is what I love about you, because there was never a single time in your playing career you said, can I just do these two friendlies and I'm not going to do the Gold Cup. And now you're also talking to two guys that really didn't get a full run. You and I were there with the national team together, Chris. I was a lot of times behind Brian McBride, rightfully so. I'm not saying I should have played, but I was there to see that. I would have never in my life, nor could I, turn it down.
Yeah.
What I'm saying about Christian Pulisic is this. I do think there is, and I will stand my ground on this, there is something going on with the AC Milan, his hip injury that has been a rumor now for almost 6 weeks, all of that. But the dissertation publicly makes it all completely ridiculous. Either you want to play or you don't, and you move on. Chris, that's the thing. You were at Manchester United with Cristiano Ronaldo as an assistant coach. You've seen the highest personality you can have. I just don't understand how you can't have a conversation with someone. And yet I also resonate with them and saying, you know what? You're the player. I'm the coach. I dictate the schedule. You don't.
If we had all the facts and all of the information, I think we all can say, no, come on, I completely agree. I completely disagree. If it's Cristiano, yeah, Ralph Rangnick would bring him in and he would talk to him. And he'd say, okay, because we played Atletico Madrid in Champions League. Say,
yes, you did.
Cristiano, no one's had more hat tricks against you. And I'd say, Ralph, I think it's good if you bring him in the office. I think it's good to just get part of the solution here. Like you don't need a declaration of war, we say. Don't need that.
Totally.
So for guys, again, Christian Pulisic, when I've never seen him put on the jersey and not give everything for the team. So what is going on? You're talking to, right, Taylor, 66 games. I took everyone as if it was my last. However, I tore my ACL 10 days before the World Cup. I ran myself into the ground. And did I need myself to protect me? Did I need someone else to say, Chris, maybe it's, okay, you have the most minutes in this year. Who gives a shit? You're like, yeah, maybe you need a break. Now, I can't imagine Christian after 50 or 60 games abroad that he wouldn't want to put the shirt on. And maybe it is. Is there a halfway? Christian, let's get you involved. Let's get into camp. It's important that people see you, and then maybe we'll give you a break. Maybe. I don't know if those conversations are had, but I think it could. If it was me, I'm thinking how to manage my most important player.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's fair. I want to take it in a direction of maybe you can start to talk about one of your own players when we talk about the national team. I think the goalkeeper position is wide open, completely wide open with Matt Turner and the uncertainty surrounding will he transfer or not. You have a couple MLS players, younger MLS guys that are getting a look now. Matt Freese started the first Gold Cup game. So I think the goalkeeper position is still wide open. Zach Steffen having one of the best years of his career. Obviously, he's injured right now in the moment. I'm just curious about what your thoughts are on how good of a chance Zach Steffen, when healthy, has. Is this a conversation that you have with him? Like, you should be going for this starting goalkeeper position on the U.S. team for the World Cup. Do you have any updates on his injury and then just his mentality fighting for that spot?
Yeah, we do talk about it regularly. Him, even Mihalovic, like their dreams are my dreams. I promise you. And
love that.
Even with the Olympics last year with Mihalovic, if we're going to be out without him for a month, we say, okay, Georgie, we'll be better for you when you come back, but go. And we're pushing it hard. So with which I hope Georgie gets a call up, by the way, because he's
had a great year.
Yeah, he's just such he's got final third top ability, but we see other guys doing well as well. So with Zach, I'd say that from a mentality standpoint, from a competitor standpoint, from a culture of the national team, and then from a quality standpoint, these days he's looking so hard to score on. His distribution, short range passing, long range passing, He's got a winning mentality. I think that partnered with the fact that it's up in the air a little bit with how some of the other guys are doing. Are they getting regular playing time? I think he's and look, the national team staff visited recently and saw him, a month ago and saw his process, saw how he trains, saw the goalkeeping core, what that looks like. And then his injury, on top of that, he had a scope. It's one of those quick ones. He might be back in 3 weeks. So we've all recovered from that quickly. So I think he's going to get back in it, and then it becomes up to him. How does he do?
Last question regarding the Colorado Rapids. For you, and you know how I love to put people on the spot, what's the one thing keeping you up at night about your team right now?
You know what, man? Like, we know exactly who we are and where we're at right now. 9th spot. I think we're close. The thing that keeps me up at night is the to make sure I have a good finger on the pulse.
Yep.
Like the confidence in a group. And the last year, we know our X factor was the spirit, the cohesion.
Yes, it was.
And you bring some players in, and sometimes some of your senior players, when they lose their spot a little bit, imagine Dax and how this could affect a player. So we bring in Reggie Cannon, now Keegan, our captains outside looking in. You bring in a couple of guys, the wingers, Kevin Cabral and Calvin Harris, they're not finding their way exactly. We bring in Josh Atencio, our player of the year 2023, Connor Ronan, outside looking. So when you have your more veteran guys, this can affect the team. We all know it. So the thing I love most is man management and managing feeling the energy. For me, you walk in, I can see a green light like lighting up. Now it's like teetering and it's not that there's not buy-in. I see we cover ground, we run, we work, but there's nothing like when you have confidence, man, you're in the zone, you can't miss. But when you don't have that and you're searching for it, you start thinking external, what is going on. And this is something that's on my mind all the time. Of course, the tactics and how we're going to press and how we can score more goals and upgrade shots and shot distance. This stuff it doesn't change. And how can I be better as a coach to get this out? But the camaraderie and on the inside, just doing my best, which is not always easy, Taylor.
No, but Chris, you and I both know at the end of the day, you now have depth. Very few teams can have depth. So if you do find the right balance to that, and you do have 17, 18, 19 players you can count on, now all of a sudden you've got a different complexion to your team, your style of play and all that. Last question for you, buddy. It's completely about yourself, and I know you hate talking about yourself, but I'm going to put you on the spot. One of the best players and competitors I ever played against and with. You missed 2 World Cups due to an ACL injury in 2002, 2006. And yet this year you were inducted into the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame. I'd have to be remiss if I didn't ask you about it, but more so, you will not convince me that wasn't the best day of your life.
It was up there, man. And you know what, Taylor and Dax, I'll tell you, Dax, now I get to see little pictures of you as you're a dad and see what it means. I'm not there with you, but I see what it means to you. What this day meant for my family puts it as one of the best days of my life. My dad died 3 years ago, but my brothers spoke on my behalf.
I know.
In case of my dad, let's say, my mom's there, my wife, and then for my boys, they were little guys when I was playing, and I knew that, one day they'd get to hear about me, watch some old video, whatever this is.
In standard def, by the way, because Chris and I didn't play during high def days.
That's VCR tapes here. People don't know what that is. But
they have no idea even what a DVD is.
You get to see how people... the light they saw there, they get to see their father in real time. Of course, they see me nowadays. They can watch a press conference or listen, but it's to see that I'm spoke about in this upper echelon of people and players. This, as much as it's about me, right? That day you get honored. It's so much more about my family, and then that listen, you guys know you put the jersey on, like all three of us, to give everything for the team, but to get honored in this way was very, very special.
Yeah, Chris, there was very few people that put on a jersey and wanted to beat their brains into the opposition more than you. And I just hope your kids saw the 2007 Eastern Conference Final where you lost 1-0.
Right.
You didn't show it?
That was the reason. That's what keeps me up at night, actually.
Chris Armas, my man. Thanks for joining us, dude.
Good stuff, guys. Thank you.
Dax, my favorite part about doing this podcast with you is just these short little segments. I was interested that Rio Ferdinand decided to name his Mount Rushmore, which apparently he has no idea what Mount Rushmore is or where it is because he named 6 or 7 players or left one empty for the best players of the Premier League. So Rio, I'm going to help you out. Mount Rushmore is 4 heads, 4, just 4. But let's do this in Major League Soccer, and I'm going to throw a little caveat to it because I think it's important for everyone to know. Major League Soccer's in a big year, 30 years. For the early part of the league, it was about survival. Now it is about thriving in so many different ways. But our Mount Rushmore will be one player from each line of the tactics. So let's start with best goalkeeper in MLS history. You would say who?
Nick Rimando, El Gato, the Cat. There's an argument to be had for a couple other goalkeepers, TT, because Rimando, he seems like the easy answer, but he's really not. Tony Meola, the only goalkeeper in MLS history to win an MVP, which...
Yeah, he was unbelievable
He was incredible that year, but this isn't even that hot of a take. We will never see that again. I don't think we're ever seeing a goalkeeper win MVP of this league ever again. So that's why Tony Meola is so fantastic. A guy I played with, Kevin Hartman, absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. He's got the trophies and the stats to back it up, but no one even holds a candle to Nick Rimando. All-time good guy, all-time great player, all-time great teammate, holds every goalkeeping record in the league, most shutouts, most games played, most minutes played, you name it, most saves. Nick Rimondo's done it. I think he has been such a great steward for the game in Major League Soccer. He is on the MLS Mount Rushmore as a goalkeeper. What do you got for defender?
That's where this gets interesting, right? And I am going to be a little bit old man get off my lawn, a lot because of social media is now all of a sudden, for a lot of U.S. men's national team Twitter and MLS Twitter, they don't understand that the league actually was around pre-2010, right? So I'm going to go that, hey, listen, there's been many a good defenders that I played against that I've now covered for 15 plus years, but people forget about Eddie Pope. And what they forget about Eddie Pope is this. He was the first defender. He played over 80 times, if I'm not mistaken, with the U.S. men's national team. Yep, I'm checking my notes. He played 82 times. He was the first defender to catch the eye of a top club in the world. Now listen, Alexi Lalas played in Serie A, and that Serie A was when Serie A was the top two best leagues in the world. And Alexi had a real established career. Marcelo Balboa had a real established career. But Eddie Pope at 22, 23, 24 had Borussia Dortmund knocking down the door, begging him to come.
Yep.
And begging him to get to that level. And Eddie Pope made a decision for himself and for his family. But that was the first time for those of us that followed the 94 and 98 World Cup teams, that was the first time where we said, hang on a minute, maybe there is something to being a professional footballer, professional soccer player in the United States of America and for the U.S. men's national team. He was as athletic as anyone.
Yep.
He was really smart. There was nobody that could outrun him. He was good in the air. He was a quiet leader. He had all of it. And I always wonder, what if he did go to Dortmund and turn that in? He chose to stay at DC United, had a great career, and has now had a great post-playing career. But Eddie Pope deserves more recognition than he's given, and that's why I'm going to throw it to you on this. We're going to pick a midfielder for the MLS Mount Rushmore, but I want you to pick who you would pick and not based on what everyone else would tell you to pick.
Well, first of all, I love that shout with Eddie Pope. Great Tar Heel, which obviously I've got a soft spot for.
Oh, here we go.
But I think you're going to, you'll get a little pushback from me. Chad Marshall, one of the most dominant defenders in MLS history, could drink 17 beers, have a little beer gut, and then go play at an MVP caliber level. Chad Marshall, shout out to you. You were fantastic. I'm taking it in the direction of the homer. I don't care. The number 6 is the most important position on the field. That's not a striker. So I'm giving number 6s some love, and I've gone back and forth on this a few times because there were so many. One of your teammates, a guy that I absolutely admired, playing against Shalri Joseph, is in the conversation. Diego Chara, still doing it at a high level. I'm going with a guy who I now get the pleasure to work with, but also a guy who is, and for me, for my money, pound for pound, the most dominant defensive midfielder that did it consistently for the longest time. Osvaldo Alonso, the Honey Badger. Seattle Sounders fans will know this. He's irreplaceable. He was irreplaceable in that team for everything he did. Won 4 U.S. Open Cups, won an MLS Cup. I believe he won a Supporter Shield, won everything there is to win in Major League Soccer, and he was synonymous with all those great teams, consistently made the playoffs, and there are names that came before, the Chris Armases of the world, right? Mm-hmm. You could throw in a bunch of other players, but for me, a little bit of recency bias and a guy that I played against and a guy that I admire tremendously. Osvaldo Alonso was the most dominant force that I ever played against as a defensive midfielder. So he is on my Mount Rushmore as a midfielder. Now, TT, we know this could go in a million different directions. We're not saying striker, we're saying attacker, okay? For the last spot, you have the difficult task of trying to parse through the best attackers this league has ever seen, and I can't wait to hear how you spin this one.
Well, many listeners would probably expect, and rightfully so, that I would pick myself, but Mount Rushmore, in order to chisel my head on the mount, it's very difficult, and I'm going to save them a lot of hassle of trying to chisel that. In all seriousness, though, if the MVP trophy after 30 years is named after Landon Donovan, it has to be Landon Donovan. Now, I find it interesting because Preki won the MVP trophy twice. Landon Donovan only won it once. But Landon Donovan's the name that is synonymous with Major League Soccer and its growth, along with David Beckham and all of that. So on my Mount Rushmore, it's Landon Donovan. But we've had some players, Marco Echeverri, Carlos Valderrama, Jaime Moreno, Robbie Keane. You can go up and down the line where guys have really transformed Major League Soccer and changed it for the better. Lionel Messi may become only the second player to win MVP, and he may become the first player to ever win MVP in back-to-back seasons. But right now, on June 17th, it's number 10 from the LA Galaxy and San Jose Earthquakes, Landon Donovan.
Landon Donovan's better than Lionel Messi. You heard it here from TT, people. Taylor, your home city of Boston has made the news recently. What can you share?
Boston taught me one thing. Adversity doesn't build character, it reveals character. And if you really think about that, adversity does reveal character, and this city has revealed my character to the highest it can. This is my city, this is my home, this is Boston.
Dax, you're not going to find this surprising. I have a camera crew follow me wherever I go. You know this.
Yeah.
You've known me for a good amount of time. But Boston, Gillette Stadium, they've got 8 World Cup games coming a year from now. And so what's very interesting to me as the New England Revolution are very close to building a stadium that is in downtown Boston. It just felt really interesting to walk the city of Boston with the camera crew. FIFA's behind it. Everyone's talking about the World Cup. Everyone's talking about the prospects of the revolution in the stadium. It's kind of cool that my home could really be at the next phase of Major League Soccer's growth while also showcasing what the World Cup is all about, particularly at Gillette Stadium. Well, there you have it. That is episode 2. Dax McCarty, Taylor Twellman, come talk to us about it. Let us know your feelings. It's called Soccer Summer Series. Has been a blast, and we are just getting started. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next week.